Hi. I wanted to kind of expand on my ideas of Black ancestral process theology, which is really, it's Black, it's Indigenous, it's centered in the oppressed people and oppressed people, marginalized people, Black ancestral process theology. So process theology is this idea that the creation story is constantly happening. There was no in the beginning, and there was no now, and there was no and there's no like future or end time. The process theology is the idea that creation is a process, and we are in the middle, in the depths of the creation story at this moment. And it kind of goes with this non-linearity idea of time, that this is a beginning and this is the beginning, and the present moment is a consistent creative process unfolding. And I was just thinking about, so that's process theology, and it is sort of framed in a very academic white space. And when I speak about Black ancestral process theology, I guess I'm generally just paying homage to the fact that it's not a new concept or even a Christian concept. It's a very ancestral, indigenous, ancient concept, of course. And it's tied in the ideas that, like, the ancestral cosmology is this idea that, we have past ancestors that created us. We are ancestors in training. We are ancestors in becoming. And then there will be future ancestors that we birth through our bodies. But as I practically apply that to my life and practically apply it to the non-linearity idea of time, it means that right now is the creative process. Every now moment is the creative process. And if that is, absolutely connected to the body, it's connected to ancestry, it's connected to the body. And it's connected to the body because we're on Earth, and we're connected to Earth, and our bodies connect us to Earth and to this sort of a time space. And our bodies connect us to a lineage. The fetus, the egg that I am from was in my mother's womb, in my grandmother's womb when she was pregnant with my mother. And so there's this the womb space that we're in, which is kind of wrapped up in the non-linearity of time. It's all right now. And so I could keep it in this vein of a process theology, but I think the Black ancestral process theology is a specific focus that I am putting on this timelessness, because we could think it's timelessness, and so it's very easy and to become like nihilistic about it, or to become very white about it and think, oh, well, we're moving through time and so nothing matters, and that's just not the case. The Black ancestral part of it, and that's something I found when I was in certain classes where we're talking about, when we get to these very existential, I'm in theology school, so in theology school you can get on some pretty existential topics. And I found that we would get on these existential topics, and it's very easy for a lot of, like, especially white men, to get very nihilistic and get very like, oh, well, then nothing matters, so do what you want type of attitude. And I feel like that's what a lot of is happening today. A lot of white males and like white adjacent people just figuring to do what they want because nothing matters, right? And when we learn time isn't real, nothing matters, right? But I'm in this class this semester it's a theology class on immigration and migration. And when we're talking about the theology of crossing, the theology of crossing a border, the theology of the cross, the theology of crossing, which ties into like Black theology, Black liberation theology, and the idea of the, James Cone and the cross and the lynching tree, and like this tied to crossings and tied to the way that people of color, marginalized people, indigenous people, Black people, brown people are in a sort of crossing, like, trickster role in this time and all times. And I'm reading, whenever I notice a pattern when I read about people who are going through just extremely difficult times, something that I can't comprehend. It's these are people who are like, ancestors who are crossing the Atlantic, ancestors who are navigating a society where lynching is a public thing. Not that it's not today, because these tactics shift forms. But I guess I'm saying I don't have a very direct I'm not in the throes of it. These are communities that are navigating, crossing, borders, refugees, and of course we're all tied to it. I can pretend that I'm not tied to it, but we're all tied to it. We're all tied to it. We're all connected to it. But essentially, when I read accounts of people like in the throes of these things, like in the depths, there's different levels to the tie we have to it. So these are like people who are in the depths, who are being interviewed, and especially around their spirit and faith. There's this sort of idea of this like deep surrender, where it's just this idea of like, well, God's got me, so I'm thankful for just being here. It's this it's a certain type of spirit, and it's a certain type of spirit that is seen throughout the culture of Black and brown people, and it's a spirit. And it's a spirit that can't really be destroyed, and it can't really be moved. You may, like, you can break the body down. You can even break the soul down a little bit. You can really get someone down, but no matter what, the spirit like continues, and it moves through generations, and it moves through the things that matter, the culture. It moves through energy. It moves through music and art and nature. Mother Nature, the earth is the epitome of that spirit. We cannot destroy the earth, no matter how much we want to talk about like save the earth with climate change. It's not about saving the earth, because we can't destroy the earth. It is a spirit bigger than us. So yeah, there's the spirit, and the thing that was coming up in my moon cycle videos was cards that were speaking about the deep listening needed in healing. When you have more space to heal, because you're not dealing with, because you're in a safer space than ever before, whether that's ever before in your life, ever before in and even history. I am not having to, we are not in the same way. And even now that I'm thinking about it, time is really like, it's all cycles, because I was going to say like, we're not dealing with like escaping slavery, but there's still people in prison. So, there's levels to safety. And when you're at a certain level of spacey, when you get more space and safety, you get more space to heal. This is what you'll find when people who are dealing with traumatic experiences, and they get space to heal, they get space to like feel safe. It almost in some ways feels worse, like their body gets into another level of trauma mode, because all this stuff has space to come up and to heal. And so you get more space to heal, and in that healing there's a need to go deep into listening, and knowing that all the solutions that you need for healing, all the solutions that you need to exist, are connected to your body, because your body is the antenna that is grabbing time through sounds, through images, through all of the senses, including the like senses that we might not even understand completely, like the way you can like dance and move your hips and get a memory of that might not be yours, but might be like a grandmother's or a great grandmother's or something. And so your body is this kind of antenna that connects you to time. And if we're all connected to an all time, then it's really just about the deep listening and like tuning into your body and to what it's bringing up for you to heal and hear and see and feel and release and transmute. And so if that's the case, if we can connect to different times, if our body knows, if the spirit that's been moving through people of color and marginalized and oppressed people knows and has known and is unstoppably moving through all that it's had to resist and be resilient against, is present right now, and you can tap into it at any moment in your own body, then it just makes me think that, and there's something else that came up for me, where someone was talking about, I don't remember where these things come from, but they come, so listen, putting the pieces together, and they really hit me today. But there is a you that exists in another time that has already dealt with everything that you're dealing with, that has already made it to the end of your life, that has already maneuvered through whatever you have to maneuver through, or might have to maneuver through, or have already maneuvered through in your life. And so the question is not necessarily what do you need to do to move through what you're going through right now, but the question is what have you already done to move through it. What did you already do? Like, what is the key that was the key to the door to unlock the next part? It's not, you're not looking for, it's not this like frantic search for answers, and it doesn't have to be. It's really just tapping into like, okay, because my spirit is strong, because my spirit is unwavering, and this is a time, it's Aries season, it's tropical Aries season and sidereal Pisces season that might just be ending right now, I'm not sure, but I was talking about before, this is like a womb space, this is like a liminal space, not a womb space, but sort of it's a liminal space. You know, of tropical Aries is the youngest of the zodiac. It's the beginning of the zodiac. It's the child of the zodiac, the newborn of the zodiac, the fool card that, you know, leaps off into new territory. And then Pisces, sidereal Pisces, is the elder of the zodiac, approaching the end. And so it's this approaching this liminal space and coming from this liminal space, all existing right now, in this like spring equinox air time. And that's what it's been feeling like to me, where I simultaneously feel like, oh, I'm too old for the shit that I've been through, and yet I feel like something new is coming, and I'm preparing to be a child again, with that, you know, childlike wonder. And so we're in this space, and the beauty about that space is it's just like a pure faith space. You know, sidereal Pisces is a deeply spiritual space. Of course, it's all spiritual, but you know what I mean. It's a deeply spiritual space, a deeply like, I've been there, done that, and I'm reaching the end, like an elder space. And then Aries, tropical Aries, is also another spiritual space where it's like the faith of a child that just goes and does and listens to the intuition and explores and is completely detached from what was. It's completely creating like new memories. It's a deeply faith space. And, you know, Oshun said faith is the faith is the greatest work, the greatest magic that beats all juju, all work, all hexes, all curses, all whatever. It's faith. It's that spirit that is unmoving through Black and brown people. You can hear it in blues, jazz, the gospels. It's just this idea of like, you know, it's just a matter of time. And if it's a matter of time, then we've already hit liberation in another time. There's already a moment where liberation is there. There's already a moment where we are living in liberation. And one of the simplest forms for me, what liberation is in a simple form, is just an abundance of time. The abundance of time. You wake up and you have time to do everything you need to do and not worry about anything you don't need to do. You have an abundance of time in the safety of having, and in that abundance of time, of course, there's like needs that we need to eat. We need food, but in that abundance of time, it's just this like, when you have an abundance of time, there's a faith that comes that those things will come. Where we live in a very oppressive society where there's never enough time. You gotta rush through the food, rush through the eating, rush through the day, rush through the conversation, rush through the video, 6 seconds on the TikTok and move to the next video, or It's just everything's rushed. And so if the spirit is moving through all of these oppressed peoples, all of our culture, all of our knowing is saying that liberation will come. And then it's a matter of not even asking, like, what do we need to do to move towards liberation? It's just a matter of, like, what did we already do to move towards liberation? And it takes a vision. You have to be able to see, what does it look like? You know, of course, starting on a small scale, starting on a personal scale, looking at what does it look like for me to wake up and have an abundance of time. For me, it looked like I woke up. One, I slept in. I didn't go to sleep till like 5 a.m. because I didn't want to. But I woke up, I took my time, I meditated, I just let, all these things come up. And all the things will come up because, again, you get more space to heal. And all the things will come up so that you can see them and heal them. And so as I've like moved deeper into this this abundance of time, I'm just like constantly crying, constantly like being hit with fear left and right. But in that space, I've just had to look around, like literally look around and remind myself, like, oh, nothing that I'm fearing is actually happening right now. Like I had a memory of like being in the shower and like someone's like, I had an incident where I'm like in the shower and someone's like banging on the door in the shower and I'm terrified. And I had to, and that fear like came over me while I was in the shower, and it really got at me for a minute. And then I had to look around and realize, like, one, I didn't really feel super in danger in the moment that it was happening, but especially right now, my door is locked, my room door is locked, and I'm alone in this room. And so this is literally just coming up for me to like reevaluate how fear is moving in my body, and especially in my shower space, because I hadn't thought about it in a while. And so there will be like these moments when these things come up. But yeah, so the process theology is, time is moving, but like, where is it moving? And of course, there's many different spaces of time that you can catch many different waves of time, many different timelines. But that's where the vision comes in. It's like really thinking about, like, if I could wake up and have an abundance of time, what would I do? I decided to take a walk. As I took a walk, the script for this whole video that I'm filming right now just popped into my head, and I pictured this like little tree stump chair, and I pictured the chair, and I pictured myself sitting there making this video. And so that's what I'm doing. And who knows what I'm going to do next, but it is a matter of like, it's a matter of deep listening and visioning, tapping into desire. Like, what would you want to do if you could just wake up and do nothing? And for a long time, my answer was sleep. And that's okay. Like, if you want to sleep and do nothing and sleep and rest, be aware that, like, as you're doing that, if you have the space to do that, which, you could say you don't have the space to do that, and I understand. But as you just vision it and write it down and desire it, you start to see where you have some of the space. your senses shift, where you start to see little moments where you have the space, and you take those moments and you lean into those moments. You put gratitude onto those moments, and your senses expand. Your senses expand, and they shift to that time. And as your senses shift, of course, your whole reality shifts. And it will bring up all the fear. It will bring up all the fear, because we're not supposed to be in that time. We literally, I feel like it's almost like whiteness knew we would be hitting liberation. And so it was like a need to, like, this is just some theories, but there was like a need to, like, enslave people for centuries, like century programming, to breed into us like a fear of rest and liberation and space and time, like an abundance of time and space. I don't know, but I'm telling you, like, when you take this time and you give your body room and space, it'll all come up. Dancing in the mirror, you move a little one way, your hips unlock. I've been like trying to unlock my hips, but your hips unlock, and all of a sudden you're wailing. Or like, but it's important to know that, like, nothing's wrong with you. And I've had to really, like, integrate this into my reality. Like, nothing's wrong with you if you get more space and more comfort and more rest, and all of a sudden you just find yourself being extremely sad and, like, depressed, and, like, you don't want to do anything. And it really is, like, I was so skeptical at first, but it really is that space opening up to heal. And if that's not the most important thing to do, I don't know what is. So yeah, process theology, the constant creative process. And you're like the paintbrush moving across the canvas. And it's important to always remember there is someone holding you. There is a you that is observing the process, as holding you as the paintbrush. And so in those moments when those things do come up, tap into that person holding the paintbrush who can step back and say, like, you know what, I'm actually safe right now. Like, actually, all of the stuff that I'm worried about is not happening right now. Like, I may be worried about not having food, but, like, right now I can go eat. Or I may be worried about, like, some abusive situation in the shower, but right now they're not there. And of course, I'm not talking about, people who are in the midst and in the throes of the trauma. I don't think that's a space for me to speak to. I'm mostly talking about the healing portion of the journey. So yeah, I just wanted to, like, expand on Black ancestral process theology, and, like, as I've been following this the moon cycle with the readings that I've been doing, and, like, actively practicing the experiment with the universe, I am just putting pieces together, and I have been thinking about, okay, on a larger scale though, what does this mean? I think I started on a larger scale and then had to move into a more personal scale, and now I'm integrating the larger scale with the personal scale. And the larger scale is that as a society, as a group of people of color or marginalized people or oppressed people, or there is that unwavering spirit that we understand white people might not, but they love it. And not even white people, whiteness, I don't want to speak to them because I don't want to. But there's this unwavering spirit that we can tap into. I, of course, am going to attribute it more to, the people whose ancestors had to go through unthinkable atrocities on a genocidal scale, like Black people and brown people and Indigenous people. Like centuries, like deep, because time isn't linear, but like it expands a lot of time. It's like not just a drop in the water, it's a whole dumping of gasoline in the ocean, or gasoline in the ocean, or the lake or whatever. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Black, brown, Indigenous people, genocidal levels of terror that we've had to interact with through many times, and we're connected to that, and it's in our bodies, and we've also created the culture, like the global culture, all of those global cultures that are always tied to Indigenous peoples across the globe, people whose descendants are from Africa, like, people of color, marginalized peoples. We are the culture. And that culture has always been a culture of resilience. It's always been a culture of knowing, of like joy, finding some type of joy or expression of a sorrow, even the sorrowfulness of joy, like blues or gospel, or there's just this knowing that, I believe that we will win. Asada Shakur, I believe that we will win. I believe that we have won because I've tapped into it. Because it's just been the knowing for centuries of culture. We're not broken, spirited people. And that is definitely tied to our connection with our bodies, and that connection to our bodies connected to all of the times, including the time where we have reached a sort of liberation. And so it's just tapping into that and asking the questions like, what did we do to get there? What did I do to get there? What desires do I need to indulge in and follow and become aware of that got me to liberation? I think that's kind of all I have to say for right now on it. I will be very interested. So I've been going through the new moon to the waxing crescent to the first quarter to the waxing gibbous moon, and we're about to hit the full moon, I think on the 16th, in Libra, tropical Libra. I think it might be like tropical and Vedic Libra. But there's also like axle, there's a lot of stuff happening in the sky. Even today, there's like a Jupiter and Neptune conjunct, which is definitely the feeling of today. Feels like I'm walking through a dream. Very timeless feels. But yeah, moving through these moon cycles, in these moon phases, and it's a very yang energy to the balance of yang energy, and I'm very, it's like really transformed a lot for me, just practicing this, and so I'm interested in like how the next part of the moon phases will how it's gonna like actually materialize, because the full moon is the materialization of it. Up until this has been like very yin energy, getting into the yin energy, into the unseen. But the full moon is bright yang energy, and so we'll see how it manifests itself into like the physical. But yeah, ongoing conversations. Join me. Thanks.